In this video, we're going to be talking about transformations to the parent function of a linear function. Before we start with that, let's talk about what the parent function of a line is. So the parent function of a line, and every single function does have a parent function, is f of x equals x. So this is the most basic line I can make. And basically what it does, it looks like this. Let's go ahead and draw an x and a y-axis. And it goes through the origin. It has a slope of 1. So it has a y-intercept of 0. It has a slope of 1. And let's go ahead and say x-intercept of 0 as well. Okay, so now, these are the following transformations that I can go ahead and do to the parent function of a line. So I can take f of x, which is x, and add a number to it. If I add a number to it, then that's just going to make it go up, and it's going to make the y-intercept bigger. All right, now if I take f of x, which is x, if I take x and I subtract a number from it, then it's going to make it go down, and it's going to make the y-intercept smaller. It's going to shift it down. Now, if I take f of x and I make it a negative, the only thing it's going to do is it's going to reflect it. So remember our sketch of this line that's going up. It's going to make this line now go down. So I just say the line's going to look like this. It's going to look going down. It's going to flip it and make the slope negative. Now, if I multiply f of x by a number that's bigger than 1, then that's going to look like this. It's going to look like 5x, say. Then what I'm doing is I'm making a vertical stretch. So this is the fancy way to say it. Basically what we're doing is we're making the line steeper. So it's going to be going up at a way higher rate. Now, if I multiply by a number that is less than 1, so a fraction, so let's suppose 1/2 x, I'm making the line less steep. So a fancy way to say that is vertical compression. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at these. I went ahead and made 4 different lines by completing transformations to the parent function. So remember, our parent function is y equals x, or f of x equals x. Same thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's type in what would be our transformation here. Here, I'm multiplying this by 1/2, so this is a number that is less than 1. I made the slope smaller, so this means I decreased the steepness, and then I added 3. So this means I did a vertical shift up. Okay. Now here in this, I did 3 things. I multiplied by -5. So multiplying by 5 increases the steepness. Now the fact that it was a -5, it means it's going to be a flip, right? So it's going to be a reflection across x-axis, and I went down 5, so down 5 units. Now in this next one, there is again 2 things that I need to look at. So I multiplied this by 3, so that means I increased the steepness still. And then I went ahead and reflected it across the x-axis, because that's what the negative does. The negative just flips it. And then in here, notice that I did not multiply this by anything. We just did down 2. So that's all that happened here it was down 2. So shifted down 2. So shifted down 2 units. Okay, so now let's talk about how this affects the attributes. Okay, so multiplying this by 1/2, again, it's changing my slope. The slope of this line was 1, and now it's 1/2. So what it did, it affected the slope. So let's go ahead and write that in there. So it affects the slope. And then I also, the plus 3 is affecting the y-intercept. And because I changed the y-intercept, you're also changing the x-intercept. Whenever you change the y-intercept, the x-intercept changes as well. Okay, so now for here, again, I changed the steepness, so we changed the slope. We also changed the y-intercept. The y-intercept is no longer 0. And we also changed, again, the x-intercept. Now in this case, the only change that I made was to the slope. I did not change the y-intercept. The y-intercept is still 0, so that means that my x-intercept is still 0. So the only thing here that changes was the slope. Now in this case, my slope is still 1, just like my parent function, but I shifted it down 2, so what we changed here was the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So this is the end of this video. I hope that you found this video useful on the transformations made to a line.